Yo, yo, yo. What up, folks? Welcome to another episode of Neptune Sunday. It's your boy V Moss here. Vogue, what's good?
How you doing, everybody?
So, just like I always say, special guest episode, man. I say this every time, and I legitimately mean it every time.
They're all special.
Anytime we have a guest that's taking their time out to chat with us, like we think they're special. So, shout out to all of our previous guests. But special guest, Mychal Denzel Smith, Virginia Beach Rays, New
Yeah.
York Times bestseller, a fellow Hamptonian on the show today. Mike, what's up, bro? Welcome.
Oh man, thank you so much for having me on. Like I told you when you hit me up, I was like, when are you gonna get me on here? I've been wanting this. I've been waiting. I'm waiting for my invite.
Yeah, man. So before we get into it, and while we got you on here, introduce yourself to the people, let them know who you are and what you got going on.
Uh, Too much. I feel like I got like 4 or 5 jobs, but I am a writer, freelance, write for basically all the publications you can name except for the New Yorker. I'm still salty about that one, but it's fine. We'll get there one day. I have 2 books that I published in 2016 and 2020. It's Invisible Man Got the Whole World Watching and Stakes is High, respectively. I'm a teacher at Hunter College in their creative nonfiction MFA program. Host a podcast called Open Forum with Lit Hub, where I talk to authors about movies. Yeah, and a whole bunch of other stuff, it feels like.
Yeah, man. So we were just talking about it before we got on. Hampton family is tight. And
For sure.
whereas me and Mike aren't super close, being in circles at Hampton, you just know people because you've been around them and don't even realize, like, you have to remember, like, probably have seen me a bunch of times. Like, I used to have dreadlocks, so you probably don't recognize me because I have my
No, no, I remember it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. So shout out to our one of our best mutual friends, the one and only your favorite writer's favorite writer, Justin Tinsley.
Indeed,
Um,
indeed.
had to hit him when we connected, and happy to have you on the show, man.
Happy to be here.
So, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming that you know what this Saturday is. It's a very important date, a very important moment in hip hop history, but more specifically in Neptune, Star Trek, world, universe history. This Saturday, August 20th, will mark 20 years since the release of the Clipse album, Lord Willin. A very important album for a bunch of reasons. Let's get into it. So, part of the reason why we wanted to get Michael on the show is doing research for the episode. I stumbled upon an article that he actually wrote back in, I guess, so that was 5 years ago, the 15th
Nice.
anniversary, and thought it made sense to try to get him on the show, man. So for those of you, hopefully everyone knows the Clipse origin story. Boys were actually born in the Bronx and moved to Virginia in like the late 70s. It's actually interesting. Today is actually No Mouse's birthday. So shout out to him, our
Oh,
the
my.
homie Gene. But Malice started off as a solo act. After hearing Pusha, Pharrell was like, yo, you guys got to make this a duo. First roadblock of many in the career of the Clipse. Malice went to the army to try to make money for the fam. So have put the career on hold. And so Pharrell actually helped them get a deal with Elektra, which led to the release of The Funeral, which to me, like, I don't even understand how The Funeral can be the lead single for an album and the album gets shelved. That doesn't make sense to me. But I'm not in the record business. So eventually, exclusive audio footage was recorded, but it was never released. So let's start there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Overall, what are your thoughts of that album? Vogue, how many times have you listened to that album? Like, did you even know that album existed before it got released this year?
I did not. I did not. I've listened to it a few times since then. I have some tracks that like really stuck with me immediately, but otherwise, I was just kind of floored that a body of work that vast I had never heard about as a Neptunes fan.
Michael, when did you first know that existed?
Exclusive audio footage. Ooh, I want to say like 10, 15 years, somewhere in between that time period. Like I knew about it and like downloaded it was somewhere. It was
Right.
one of those file sharing, like somebody had it and got it because I was in a real heavy Clipse period. And then was like, oh shit, the unreleased one is there. And I know like the funeral, yes, but the rest of the album, uh,
At,
uh,
so as a diehard, right? Like, and this goes, I say this statement and it applies to a lot of music produced by the Neptunes and or Pharrell or Chad, right? It's okay. A lot of it is okay, but I tolerate it or I even like it more than most people would just because it's them, or I give it more of a shot, right? Like,
I hear you.
when you put the shuffle on and it's on there and you hear it a few times, it's like, oh yeah, that's not that bad. Or like, depending on your mood, you're not gonna skip it. But I think there is, to your point, some legitimacy to it not being received well enough for it to be a huge record for the record label to be like, yo, that's it. I get it. Especially for that to be the first project from the camp, right? Like,
yeah.
That's at the point where they got Laura Willin, like, okay, cool. We had two Khalees albums, and you put that on top of the run that they had, which we'll get into in a second. So it was able to basically be a rough draft for Laura Willin, I think, which is dope. That I think for us to be able to have that album and appreciate it and be like, it is what it is cool. Like, but I'm glad also, maybe it's the gift and the curse of it not releasing and then flopping and then never having a shot again, right? Like,
right. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's a rough draft because I'll tell you like just all the problems that I have with it. And again, it's not. I'm not trying to like bash it just for the sake of it. But I do think like there sort of becomes this legend around it as if like oh man, we got denied this like Clipse album. And it's like, did you really miss out? Because the problem is like, one, it's so bloated. And that's not just the Clipse. That's like late 90s, early aughts hip hop. Like everybody has way too many tracks on the album, right? When you listen to Lord Willin', when you listen to Hell Half, even to the casket, it's all tight 12 13 tracks, right? Like they really hone in, right? Like they really get it down. They didn't do that kind of editing with exclusive audio footage, and it's sort of a sign of the times.
Yep.
The other part, one of the other parts is that like I don't think the Neptune, like they had hits, right? Like they produced big songs, but I don't think that they had the practice that they needed in crafting an album and like really understanding what went into that kind of project and the cohesive sound that you get with your Lord Willin' and Hell Hath, like being able to do that, being able to really match the Clipse and what their vision was. And I don't think exclusive audio footage has like a real vision other than let's get this album done.
Right.
The other part is Malice sounds good for the most part. Pusha as Terror at that time, he just sounds like he's fighting the beats. Like he really felt like he's at war with the beats. Like the voice is, and so when you get to Lord Willin' and you get to the intro and he's like, players, we ain't the same, and that laid back, real steady delivery, that's not how he sounds on exclusive audio footage. He needed that time to mature because he sounds like he's too eager, like too much in little brother mode on exclusive audio footage, and it just never completely gels. And then sometimes Malice is trying to match his energy and then they just off the rails, and it's just like, I don't know. And then I think going back to sort of like the point of the Neptunes not really having formed like album making like philosophy yet, there's a lot of beats on there that like just ain't Clipse beats, right? Like they just not for them. If you would have put if Nori had a bunch of those beats, like Nori would have been fine, right? Like that would have been fine. Like the Hear Me Out joint, they reworked for Jadakiss to do Knock Yourself Out. And it's like, I don't love Knock Yourself Out necessarily. I don't think it's like the greatest song in the world, but it sounds better with Kiss on there than it does with, with the Thornton brothers. So it's just that like they just hadn't really sat down and considered like, what does a Clipse project truly sound like?
Right.
Glad that you said, Vaughn, what you said about like it sounding different to mature ears who already have a ear for what Neptune songs sound like, because I felt like I heard it under that lens. The songs that I like all sound like the Clipse. The feat, like I like the Nori feature, but I like Nori. I already know I like Nori on Neptune's beats. All of those things that stood out to me were things I already knew I liked about the Neptunes. The other ones, I mean, I hate to say, I kind of got to echo Mychal. I was impressed by the body, but I don't know that I would go back to any of those other tracks. When I go back to the album, I'm going back to the same like 3-4 tracks that I really, really like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the good thing about it from our generation too, right? Like pretty much everyone in our generation heard it in reverse, right? You probably heard Lord Willin' and then you got the illegal download from wherever, Kazaa, LimeWire, whatever, and you heard it afterwards. So like you said, you made a great point, but like you've heard it after you've already accepted what you expect from a Clipse project. But at the same time, I think for me, I didn't really put the pressure on it though, because I was just like so happy to have more that I was just like, it's cool. These are mediocre, and I'm okay, cool. Like these didn't get released, but like I got like also that part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast and part of the reason why I like in the super fan is like it's part of that of being able to tell people like, yo, I got this. Have you heard this? Check this out. Yo, I'm putting you onto this. Like, did you know that this existed? Blah blah blah. So yeah, man. I mean, I think like you said, like we just talked about it being a rough draft, having that first rough draft of the Jadakiss Knock Yourself Out beat. I also listened to it all the way through a couple of weeks ago, and there's definitely if you think about that being the first album and then listen to all of the other albums in order, you see the progression of Malice's foreshadowing of his come to Jesus moments, because he's always had it in his back pocket. There's prayers on that, interludes on that album, and there's sprinkles in all the songs and all the other albums. And so, you know, I mean, I actually talked about this with our last guest, Niles. You know, the surprise drop on the platforms just was random. Like I haven't heard anything about, you know, why, or like there was no promo for it. And it just seems like from a Star Trek standpoint, there's a lot of stuff happening, which I'm not mad at. Don't get me wrong. Like the fact that I can just listen to that right now, but like there's a lot going on, and it's just weird because there's really no face of it that's saying, okay, cool, here we're gonna do this, and like, hey, let's like come up. So like I'm interested to see what happens on their side to acknowledge this weekend, right? Like I haven't heard anything leading up to it, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. So leading up to the album, though, let's talk about, before we even get to the album, we talked a little bit about it already. The Neptunes were on a crazy run, and that helped really catapult them into there being like a lot of hype and buzz for this album. Clipse was on a lot of, we talked about this before on another episode, like the Clipse were on a lot of R&B pop features too, which I think was a really unique way to kind of just get the masses to be able to see who these guys were. Having them perform at the VMAs with Justin Timberlake, obviously that Like I Love You was a big smash that summer. What happened to that boy was after the album came out, but still part of the folklore of this time period, man. So I think overall it's just dope to see how, again, the timing of it made a lot more sense in 2001, 2002, with the Neptunes becoming these big super producers and big figures, that it was easier for them to bring these guys in with their official debut and to have a lot more preparation for people to receive it well.
Yeah, with that star power, but I think just also getting the reps up, right? Like getting that in and understanding, okay, this is the sound for a hit record, and then understanding the way that they work with different people. Like, okay, this is a J beat, this is a Ludacris beat, like this goes to Nori, this goes to Busta. Like we get they understood different artist approaches, and then I think that coming back to Clipse made it easier for them to be like, okay, if they sound like this and they doing this, how do y'all want to stand out, and what kind of message do y'all want to be honing in on? And I think that's just really important to have that time, to have that experience. And they made the Khalees albums, for whatever she feels about those at this point.
That's a whole nother conversation.
The whole other conversation. But they also, and it's not like the best body of work, but they also did a whole lot of production on Philly's Most Wanted. Yeah. And I think that sort of like gave them that practice and being like, okay, how do we craft a sound around artists to make them shine? And like when they come back home with Clipse, it's like, okay, y'all have matured. We put y'all on a bunch of songs. Y'all have been able to see what this looks like. Now we understand sonically what direction we want to go into. We're not going to give Jay the grind and beat, no matter how many oohs and all of that stuff that he does in the studio. We're not going to give that to him. We can focus. And I think it's a perfect storm, just like sort of like you're alluding to. It's just a perfect storm to be able to have that moment for them, as opposed to if it was 99. Like 99, I just don't think that they would have, like, they put exclusive audio footage out, would probably never get the Clipse career career that we got.
Right.
I think an interesting point was made about like kind of setting that preliminary work, not only in terms of like letting them mature, but also like hearing them in avenues that aren't like really catered to them. So I'm a Clipse fan because of like I Love You. Like I talk about on the podcast a lot of time. My interest into being a Neptunes fan was really through the pop sector of their music. I don't know, like I was into rap in high school, but I don't know that I would have naturally gravitated towards that kind of sound without something like I Love You. Of course, a lot of Justin Timberlake fans never looked at the Clipse, but somebody like me, I'm like, oh, I'm interested in this. I want to know more about this. And that's why I love Lord Willin the way that I do. I'm from PG, so I don't have that connection. But that actually kind of leads me, I want to veer us into the Lord Willin conversation. I want to ask you guys, talk to me about the significance of this album to you. It's a little bit more personal for you guys. You guys are from Virginia. It means something more sonically, history-wise. Like, talk to me about that.
I'm gonna let you go first, Mike.
I mean, at this point, it is, I feel like for everybody, right? Like at this point, Hell Hath No Fury is considered the best Clipse album. I have this discussion with so many people, and I just feel like, no, Hell Hath No Fury. I'm like, okay, I'll grant you that. But when I'm driving in Virginia, I'm putting on Lord Willin. If I want to like feel like I'm there, that album just captures it just so perfectly. And it's like, it's not like, again, we're not talking about the first Virginia artist, right? Like Missy's already put out classic albums, already done that. And there's definitely a Virginia-ness to that, some of that feel of like breeziness. Especially we're talking about the Tidewater area, talking about where I'm from in Virginia Beach, like that breeziness, that sort of bounciness, all of that. What Neptunes were able to do on Lord Willin was take some of that, and then they just added some darkness underneath of it. And then you get Malice and Pusha coming in, really seeming to be focused, not just on let's make an album, let's make a statement about Virginia, because New York rappers been saying all these years about how they've been coming down to Virginia, you know, how they got the cases in Virginia and bodies in DC, right? Like Mace was making trips down to Virginia. Like everybody's been saying how they come down here. Let's show them like what it is to be here. Right. What it is to live this, like be hustlers here. And I think that with that vision and like thinking about just being a teenager sort of obsessed with all things hip hop and being like, there's no statement that we got here in Virginia that says who we are to the world. Lord Willin coming along. I mean, first, just think about like Grinding coming out, and that beat, Grinding is the greatest beat in hip hop history. Just period. It just is. And then everybody across the country is banging that out on the lunchroom table. Everybody. So we already captured you with that. Then you get Lord Willin. You get a song that's about just being like, I'm from Virginia, saying it. Nobody's saying that. Like we just feel forgot. At least for me, it was like I'm forgotten down here in Virginia. Like Atlanta got it going, Miami got it going, New Orleans, you know, Chicago kind of to an extent. It was around, like not so much until Kanye, but like Common was out of Chicago. Like LA and New York very clearly. Philly had it going, but Virginia, like Missy and Timberland is out of Virginia, but they weren't making Virginia statements. Right. Clipse said, we are from Virginia. We are painting the picture for you. And it's just like, oh shit.
Yeah, man. It's just when you think about at that time period, rappers were the tastemakers and most of our culture. Anything that was cool came from them. So that also just bled into where you're from. It was cool to be from New York, obviously, but Atlanta and Philly and Cali, like what? Like in these places and their regional sounds that went with it. And we just didn't have it. And we were old enough and aware enough to know that, like you said, Missy and Timbo and Magoo and you know, from the 804, like everybody loves Mad Skills, and we would give so much props to Mad Skills for what he's done to blaze the trail. But at the same time, he wasn't on the forefront as being the face of it like these guys were able to be at the time because of that Neptunes superstardom, cosign, and then you add on top of that how huge grinding was, like you said. But then to have Virginia, a song about it, is absolutely insane. We grew up like not loving or not really being proud of being from Richmond and Hampton and the beach and Newport News because of what they weren't, instead of loving it for what they actually were, which this helped us do in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? Just really understanding like, yo, the same place I'm making figures that's there goes the Sam Lane they used to hang niggas at, is like some real stuff that we grew up learning history of our state, right? Like this, we take Virginia history in the 4th grade, and that's basically what we're learning is Virginia was the capital of the South. Jamestown, we got,
go to Jamestown where they used to hang the niggas at.
Bro, you go to Jamestown and Richmond, we got like obviously with the past couple of years, all the monuments issues, like that's the center that is in Richmond, Monument Ave, Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee, all those guys are getting torn down. There's Jeff Davis Highway they're about to change the name to. Like that is really who we are. And it's crazy to have someone in a song like that at that time on an album that was so important. It just put us in a different space to be like, yo, yeah, we from Virginia and ain't shit to do but cook, yo.
Like, to do but cook.
and that means whatever you want it to mean, because you talking to two guys, college educated, New York Times.
I ain't never cooked no crack.
We ain't cooking nothing.
Never cooked no crack.
There's no grinding, none of that, nothing. But at the same time, we can still be proud of what the vibe was and what the energy was behind that, which I think was dope.
Definitely.
Yeah, man. And to that same point, I think you made a good point in your article back in the 15th anniversary, just about, what that really means. Like, the ain't shit to do but cook is like really kind of a statement on how the economics are built in Virginia and in that area specifically. It's like, yeah, ain't shit to do but cook, because it really ain't no opportunities. Like, you either gonna go to the military or you like Mouse went to the army because you had to go try to make some money. So it's like, it's really part of that whole picture of telling that story of how important Virginia is to our American history, but in a very specific way to us being from Virginia, which I think is really dope.
For sure. And like, in thinking about that, ain't shit to do but cook. Now, remember, I'm like 15 when this album comes out. So like, I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Like, I love this, but like, what are y'all talking about? But I got a chance to talk to Pusha. This is like 2016. And I was just like, okay, y'all are known for y'all coke raps. You've been doing this for a long time. I'm like, what makes Virginia such a hub of all this? And he's like, yo, if you trying to go to the beach and you coming from up north and you can't afford to go to Miami, where you gonna go? And I was like, oh, my whole life makes sense now. I'm from budget Miami. Like, I get it now. Like, and just thinking about how big of a part of the culture then that is, but thinking about how Virginia as a state does not want you to think about that part. Does not want you. I mean, there's so much that they don't want you to think about. Like, there's all the monuments that you was mentioning that they do want you to think about. So much of the history that they do want to pound into your head. It looks like, yes, I know 4 of the first 5 presidents came from Virginia. I get it. I understand. Like, I'm pretty clear on that. But when you think about, again, like you were saying, Vaughn, the economic opportunity of people in the area, how much of that is actually accessible to people like me, like Bush, like how much of it was actually accessible? How many of us were they going to put down on the ocean front when they're supposed to be drawing in tourists, right? Like, so what do you do down there? Well, there is an opportunity and shit to do but cook.
Right. Yeah, man. It's really dope, man. And we'll get into this in a second, but like, to me, I think those are the top 2 songs from, I think those are the top 2 Clipse songs, period. But we'll get more into that later. So I'm gonna go through a couple of my memories. I'll let you talk about some, like, try to go back in time to 2002. So I feel like I had the leaked version maybe by the end of the school year in 2002. Because I remember, shout out to my boy LC Baker, one of my boys from high school, like, who I was the CD burner guy, all like no statute of limitations on that. FBI, don't come arrest me. And I remember just like having like just conversations about this album. And I went to this church camp, right? And it was a regional camp. So it was like Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. And I had these 2 dudes that I think they must have been like, it was on campus at some school. And so we were in the dorm, and the dudes next to us. Like we're from Alabama and we just, you know, started talking and started hanging out, right? And I just remember them being aware, right? I feel like at that point they were aware because Grinding was out and Grinding was shutting shit down, but I had the whole album already. You know, so being able to play that for these two country, I mean, these boys was so country, bro. They was cool, but they was country as hell. And we just clicked and they was like, yo, it was dope. And I remember that I was like, yo, that was one of the early moments too in my life of being able to talk about and be able to understand how the music can connect people from all different places, all different races. Like, doesn't matter where you're from. If it's dope, it's dope. Like, let's talk about it. But yeah, man, that was just a cool moment just to be able to share that with them. Go ahead. Talk about some of your memories, Mike.
I mean, the thing about it, like, I didn't get a leaked version, so I didn't have it as early as you. But just the biggest thing that I remember is like it is about grinding, and like we had the album and everybody was bumping it when it did come out. Like it came out right before the new school year started, so everybody was listening to it. But it carried from the end of that one school year into the new school year, where again on the lunch tables every single day somebody was doing grinding, right? But also go out to the football field for like some pep rally, for a game, whatever. Guess what they doing on the bleachers out there is a grinding beat. Like we talk about with all the community and the parents and stuff, like people and teachers and principals and all of that, like have no idea what's going on.
Right.
But you have almost the whole student body banging out the grinding beat. And it's just like that is imprinted, that the power of that beat, again, the greatest in hip hop history. I don't know what else competes with it at this point. But when that hit and everybody trying to rhyme over top of it, everybody that thought they could rhyme in high school, everybody thought they had freestyle and bars and all of that, like trying to get over top of the Clipse beat, right? Like it's just because I feel like that's part of the pride of the moment. It's being like, it's not just that of the greatness of the artistic quality, it's being like, but this is ours.
Yes,
we here. This belongs to us.
Yeah, man. It's definitely just to have so many different pieces of that moment of the album and grinding, and the video being in the projects. And you know, they had on, I think one of them had on, I don't know if it was grinding or if it was What Happened to That Boy, where they had on the Virginia Squires.
It was grinding.
Yeah, which is just like, come on, man. Pee Wee Kirkland, this is all Virginia stuff, and it's like you don't understand it, and you got to be able to explain it to people. Like, yo, this is our shit. Like, this is our shit. This is a big deal, and it's okay if you like it, but let me let you know that this is something different, that you don't really understand what's going on, and that's okay. I'm gonna tell you why. Like, it's really dope.
It's like you saying that. It's thinking about the album and Famlay being on there. Famlay not a great rapper, but when he gets on there, he has his little moment. He's like, I've been locked up more times than Sweet Pea. I'm like, do y'all know about Sweet Pea Whitaker and all the times that dude been locked up? Like, that's some Virginia shit. That's some Norfolk shit. That is very specific.
Yeah, man. And it's crazy too, just thinking about back to the connecting with people like Nasir Quadri from Hampton. One of the first people I met at Hampton in line the week before classes, trying to register the class, and then we sitting there. He from Atlanta, and I'm sitting there. Oh, I'm from Virginia. He's like, oh yeah, from where the Clipse is. Like, yeah, that's what's up, man. Yes, exactly. Okay, you see what type of time we on, bro. That's what's up, bro. Yeah, man. And you talked a little bit about it too. Like, I think it's dope, the whole story that P has told, Pusha has told, about how when they were making the beat, P called Pusha and was like, yo, you got to come to the studio. I'm giving this beat to Jay-Z. I think that's really cool how it kind of foreshadows how those guys have built a relationship. Like, me and Vogue talked about it on our episode about Beyonce, about how Jay-Z is the bridge to the Neptunes for a few of like our favorite people, right? Or he connects. Obviously, like, he's not the bridge to Pusha, but like just the fact that Pharrell is the bridge between Jay-Z and Pusha, which is dope. Like, Pharrell had a quote I wrote down. He said, I feel like Pusha and Jay both do the same things. Jay always wants to hear what Pusha's not taking, and Pusha always wants to hear what Jay is not taking to this day. So it's like, thankful for all of the collaborations, not all, but like the few collaborations that we've gotten for those guys. Like, that would be a really cool album. Let's put that in the universe.
Let's put that out there.
Let's put it in the universe.
Neptunes produced Jay and Pusha album. Let's make this happen.
Yeah, man. And even further to like talk about the impact, I also was reading how just about how important this album was and grinding was to the streets. Like Pusha was like they was touring and going to all these little hood spots where all the dope boys was having shows. Like they were traveling the world doing dope boy like shows for dope boys, and like they helped make the record blow to what it was because they were going to these really hole in the wall spaces in the hood, which is like if you got the hood, man, that's a strong backing, yo. That's a strong backing. Vogue. So talk to us about what your favorite moments are, favorite songs are from the album. I want to hear your perspective because I feel like it's going to be a little bit different than ours.
It is. And so I was thinking about that exactly because I was like, I don't have this experience. Like you from PG, we get Wale. It's not the same kind of thing. And he's cool and everything. It's no diss to Wale, but it's not the same kind of like history like that. I will say, like everywhere else across the nation, we was banging on the lunch tables. But for me, I would say, first of all, I'm pretty sure when I told Vaughn that Grindin' was not my favorite song in this album, he was very surprised and a little hurt.
No, Vogue. You don't have Grindin' in your top 15.
You don't have to tell our guest that.
I'm just, but I'm gonna let you continue.
You didn't have to out me like that.
No,
my favorite song on this album is actually it's Gangsta Lean, but I'll do you one better. I'm a really big fan. I was just tweeting about it because I was listening to this album before we recorded. I'm a huge fan of Faith Evans. Actually, my favorite uncle, he bought me Faith Evans' album. I can't remember which one it's called, but the one that came out around that same time. I love I Don't Love Her. I never listened to it once. I listened to it a minimum of 3 times when I play it. So it's songs like that kind of like, and again, what I love about the Neptunes, bridging like the R&B and, the beautiful symphonies that Pharrell makes. Those are the moments on this album that really stuck with me, although I'm a huge Ego fan. Don't let your ego get your ass.
I like Ego too. I think Ego is slept on.
Yeah, for sure. But what?
We don't do that, boy.
So let me take this moment to explain what's happening. Just so for all of our loyal listeners out there, the reason why Vogue has a top 15 clip song is the immediate episode immediately following this one will be a bracket where we will break down and vote for the best clip song of all time. And we're kind of being specific with it only from the 4 albums. But so to release some of the pressure on Vogue, there were, we've asked maybe about 10 people. So I have maybe 8 lists, including Mychal. Vogue is not the only person out of the 8 lists that I have that doesn't have Grindin' in their top 15. That's all I will say. I'm not going to talk anymore about it. Go ahead.
We just talking about the 4 albums though, right? Like we're not even include. It's not like you had What Happened to That Boy or like
no features, no re-up.
I'm struggling. No, nothing off of the We Got It for Cheap mixtapes. Like you can't include none of that. And Grindin' doesn't crack your top 15. I mean, even if you include all of that, it still does.
The way I tried to explain, because I did try to explain this away, the way that I tried to put it is that like it's not that I don't understand the cultural impact of Grindin'. I get it. It is the best beat in hip hop history. I don't disagree with you at all. I think that for me, it doesn't have the same personal value. And when I made my list or when I think about the songs that are important to me from artists, it always has like a personal value. I have like a personal memory attached to it. So it just so happens I got 15 songs that I feel stronger about.
All right.
Mike.
I'm gonna argue with your personal feelings.
All right, Mike. What's your top? What are your top favorite moments? Obviously, we talked about Virginia and Grindin'. What's some other favorites of the album?
Young Boy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the intro again. Players, we ain't the same. Cane and guns.
I think the intro is. There's very few intros like that in hip hop. Like let's really talk about like Dreams and Nightmares is what it is.
Yes,
but it's not really because it's become this big thing. You don't really think about it as an album intro anymore. It lives as its own thing separate from the album where it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But Players We Ain't the Same, I'm in the Cane and Guns comes on and you like, what am I listening to right now? Can I go, someone tell me how to chop a brick right now? Like, I just want to understand. I really want to be authentic with it if I'm saying. Nah, but for sure. I think I love the intro, Young Boy. I think Young Boy is one of the songs too that really helps tell the story of them growing up and like, hey, painting that picture of being kids and being exposed to it and how that led to them being involved. Like when he talks about what is that? He talks about Miami Vice, and he's talking about how Calderon made me colder. I'm like what, bro?
Absolutely. And then, god damn,
yeah,
hard.
Man. It's so many records, and the one thing that's really unique too that I think is always kind of cool is like the two grinding remix just is thrown at the end. It's just they're just so random, and it's just random. Like I to me I look at it as, this is something I thought about too. Like if you look at it as if you just take those off as just like bonus tracks, right? And you think about the 3 albums. Don't talk about exclusive audio, but just think about the 3 albums and how all of them end with this kind of like darkness to them. Like Nightmares on Hell Hath No Fury, right? Like it's crazy. So the album is dope, man. Like one thing that I just thought about too when you said hi, god damn, is made me think about Roscoe, and it made me think about back to the Philly's Most Wanted conversation. Is I love most of those tracks that they did for them on that album, but I think there's definitely some similarity in what we just talked about earlier in terms of what could have been, right? Like that album was cool, it had some hits, but like at the same level of like if exclusive audio footage had come out and there was no more clips, like Get Down and Lay Down came out, and that was really it for them.
It for Philly's Most Wanted. Like that was it.
Yeah, man. And it's like they had some other label drama too, which is unfortunate, but it's like, yo,
that come with it. But I think it's the same problem that you hear on exclusive audio footage, where it's just like it's unfocused, they're a little immature, just like don't really have the vision for what they want to do as a whole project.
For sure. The rest of the Clipse history after Lord Willin is intense, man. It took us 4 more years to get another album, and like obviously the merger and the label drama with Erison and Jive. Like let's take a little second to really talk about how crazy the re-up mixtapes were though.
Thing about like at that time, I really wasn't a mixtape fan. Like I just really loved albums because I liked seeing that like polish and that sort of like vision come together in that way. But here's the thing about those re-up mixtapes, the We Got It for Cheap joints, is that we hadn't really heard too much of Clipse rhyming on non-Neptunes beats.
Right.
So you get a chance to hear that, and you just get them because the strength of both Pusha and Malice is just like they can rap for days, and they just doing that. It's just like, all right, we taking everybody's beats and we just putting the hardest coke raps on top of this that like we could possibly do. And it's not under the purview of the label, so we just free to do whatever we please. Like, and for them to bring in Roscoe and Ab and just be like, all right, we doing this, and like them dudes come in and spit hard rhymes. Like, it's just that freedom that they experienced during those few years. That's like it's just sort of like it's freedom, but it's also exile, and it's also
frustration. It's a lot of frustration in those bars
coming out. Oh, it's menacing though. It's menacing. It just is it's a cocktail for menacing, and that's like We Got It for Cheap is just that. It's you hear it come out in Hell Half like in a little more polished way, but like you hear all of that frustration build and them just be like, all right, here we go, we killing everybody.
Yeah, and I think the re-up We Got It for Cheap stuff helped increase the anticipation for Hell Half. And part of the reason why Hell Half is kind of got this critical acclaim as being the best album and overshadowing Lord Willin a little bit, just because they were given such high quality bars on all of these hit beats, right? That it was just like, yo, if you weren't paying attention before, because you're like, oh, they just got the Neptunes, they're gonna be fine. Everybody they just hype, oh, grinding is what it is. But then you hear them, okay, you want to hear some raps? Okay, cool. Yeah. Another very specific Virginia thing. My favorite bar from the re-up mixtapes: admiring the splendor, scared cause she remember how a dope dealer had ruined the life of Kimba. So for those of you who are not from Virginia, back in the 90s, there was a woman named Kimba Smith who got involved with a drug dealer and basically ruined her life. She went to jail for a long time, had a bunch of issues go along with that. But she was out of jail in time for us that were in elementary and middle school for her to do this crazy tour of, I don't know if she had a book or something, but she would go to schools and she would tell her horror story about being connected to this drug dealer and how that put her on this path. And it was just like to hear her, to see her and see her tell this story. And then 10, 15 years later, hear him say that crazy ass line. Like what are we talking about, bro? Like to have something again, like it comes back to them speaking directly to us.
Yeah.
Right. Like almost saying like, I'm making this music for all the kids that grew up in Virginia that will understand exactly what I'm talking about. That's one of my favorite moments of the re-up mixtape.
Yeah. I feel like really what it is, and coming back to Skills for a minute, like if you listen to his album From Where, he's trying to be like, yo, I'm from Virginia a little bit, right? Like the whole idea from where, like
right.
But it doesn't sound specific to Virginia. He sounds like he's just rhyming over some New York beats, and he's trying to earn the respect of New York rappers. With the way that Clipse flip it is that like when they get to Lord Willin, they're pulling straight from the Virginia soil. And just saying, no, we're owning our place, we're owning our home, and we're going to convert you to our sound. We're going to make you feel where we're from. And I think that's a winning formula across hip-hop, right? Like Nelly and St. Lunatics come out, they sound like they from St. Louis, right? Like that's the whole point,
right?
Is making something specific. And I think that the line you pointing out, like that's saying, it's like you think about like how we had to listen to New York for so long and be like Fife was talking about bust off on your couch, now you got Siemens furniture, and I don't know that Siemens furniture is something specific to New York City, and that like that's the double entendre that I'm supposed to be catching on to. But when Clipse is doing shit, like I know, and so it's like, all right, finally we got some language that y'all got to catch up to.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, you talked about a little bit earlier, the re-up mixtapes was the first time I was hearing them on non-Neptunes beats. Hell Hath No Fury comes out, everyone loves that. It's got the sprinkle of the controversy with the Wayne beef. Till the Casket Drop was really different for us as fans of them. Like to really hear them on DJ Khalil, you know, just stuff that was not the Neptunes, and then enjoy it, and then kind of just be like, what's happening here? Is something happening? Is there something going on? And then here we go. So, you know, I think the album is good. I think
like Till the Casket Drops. I think it's a little unfocused, and like toward the end, there's like 3 songs that could have ended it. Like it's like Champions and Footsteps and Life Change all could have just been the end. One of those 3 you could have just picked, and you could have cut out the song with Carrie Hilson. Like it just didn't land. Like it's not I Don't Love Her, Vogue. I'm sorry, it's not the same caliber.
I gotta come clean. They're gonna kick me off the podcast for this one.
Oh my gosh, Vogue. Don't embarrass me in front of company.
I'm not gonna embarrass you. I'm gonna tone it down. I will say for a long time, I finally come to the understanding that Lord Willin is my favorite Clipse album. For a long time, The Casket Drops was number 1 for me. That was, I actually don't really care for Hell Hath No Fury. And
interesting.
It's not that I don't hate it. I don't think it's a bad album. It's just not where I was at the time. Like I was like fake Puerto Rican at the time. I was listening to a lot of reggaeton. I just don't think I was in the space to like really be interested in that kind of music.
Definitely darker than some reggaeton.
Yes.
So I think it just missed me. But wherever I was musically, and I'm a really big Kanye fan. I say that all the time on this podcast. So for them to move more in that direction, that really appealed to somebody like me. I was like, I can get behind this. I'm down for it. I played that album out. So that's like really high for me in the Clipse lore.
Yeah, man.
I feel you. I listened to the Casket Drops a lot when it came out. Like, and I really did like it. Like, I think there's just some stuff that I would have done differently, and like some tracks I would have taken off. Like I said, but I still think it's a really strong project. I think when you're coming off of Lord Willin and Hell Hath, there's so much pressure for you that like like there's just no, like for them to have pulled that off and like deliver something that everybody would have been like is on exactly the same level would have been some god tier shit that like we would have just been like, oh, are Clipse the greatest hip hop group of all time? Like that would have been a conversation, but like you just don't do that. Like it's very rare that you do that kind of,
especially when you think about again, the foreshadowing is even more apparent in that album of Malice being like, I'm over this shit a little bit. Like,
yeah,
I'm gonna still get it done. He still has some really dope moments and high quality bars on that project, but you can still, like I said, you can hear his foot is halfway out of it. And
well, man wanted to be watching Madagascar with his kids, bro. Like,
yeah, man, it's crazy when me and Tinsley actually met Malice in 2011 at A3C, and it was like right after. It must have been right after his book dropped, because I think he was out at A3C festival in Atlanta, music festival in Atlanta, trying to promote his book. And it's crazy, like, Tins, man, like Tins is Malice recognized his name from doing something for Karen Civil, and we started having a conversation with him, blah, blah, blah. So it was cool, man. Like, so let's finish that conversation. Let's go around. I'm gonna start with Vogue. Let's rank the 4 albums. Let's include exclusive audio footage in the 4 Vogue.
I mean, I think I've revealed my hand. It's Lord Willing, Till the Casket Drops. I actually will put it before, I mean, not surprisingly, exclusive audio footage. So then it's Hell Hath No Fury, and then at the end it's exclusive audio footage.
All right, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for me it's Lord Willin. If we're just talking about my favorites, like not ranking them as what I think is the best. If I push to it, I will say that Hell Hath is their best album. But for me, it's Lord Willin, Hell Hath No Fury, Till the Casket Drops, exclusive audio footage.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Hell Hath No Fury gets the acclaim because of the hype. Like I said, like think about the misses on Hell Hath No Fury. Like I think the misses are like Trill is kind of a miss.
Yeah,
Chinese New Year is okay. I like Chinese New Year. It's the other one. Dirty Money.
Dirty Money is not the best song.
So then what are the misses on Lord Willin, right? Like some people don't really like, there are people who don't like Ma Don't Love Her because it was a single and it's not really like true to the rest of the album. I think people have mixed feelings about Gangsta Lean a little bit.
I don't love Gangsta Lean. I don't love I don't love Gangsta Lean. I don't love I'm Not You. Like especially the end the album, like it doesn't feel like complete as an ending.
I can agree with you.
Comedy Central's fine, but like I'm just like
I like Comedy Central because all 3 of them get their raps off on Comedy Central. Like even Fab, like the number 9 joint with the Deuce Tray on back.
Yes, I think the problem for Lord Willin is, for me at least, is that like that first half is so strong that once those tracks start coming in, I'm just like, you're losing steam a little bit. It just is not grabbing me the same way because that first half is like I'm locked into my seat.
True. I mean, even Let's Talk About It with Jermaine Dupri it's not terrible. Like it's got
not terrible, but it's not.
I don't like it.
Okay. All right, you guys. Okay. I'd say my favorite I think it's definitely in order. Favorite wise, I think I do agree after that conversation we just had about the misses, the Hell Hath No Fury is still the best overall. But my favorite is still Lord Willin. We just spent 45 minutes talking about how special that is because of what it meant to us culturally being from Virginia. So I gotta go with Lord Willin. So happy 20th birthday to Lord Willin. Shout out to Gene and Terrence, Thornton, and also want to take a moment to shout out their parents because they both passed away like right back to back this year too. So I know that was a huge deal for them. So peace and love to Gene and Terrence. Thank you for this album. Thank you, Pharrell. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Virginia. Before we let you go, Mike, we asked everybody this question. Who do you think is, you can choose if you want to go best or if you want to go favorite of the frequent collaborators with Pharrell and Neptunes. And why?
All right. I feel like if I'm going best, like Jay-Z is the best rapper to rap, like just because he is what I like. So I'm gonna take Jay out of the equation.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Clipse even out of the equation just because like the closeness there, you're like you know what you're getting. So I'm gonna give you my pick and then I'm gonna give you my explanation. Their best collaborator is Nori.
Mm.
And this is my reasoning for this. Cause Busta can rhyme on everybody's beats.
Mm-hmm.
Ludacris can rhyme on a bunch of they work with guys that can rhyme. Nori is not a good rapper. But when he gets a Neptunes beat, Nori elevates.
Yes.
And makes smashes. That's why he's the best collaborator for them. And like, I mean, in that, like, it's about him more than it is about them.
Right.
But I think when you consider that, like, he is able to reach into something in himself to make a hit song when he's not very talented as a lyricist, that is something special.
I agree with that. I think, we always talk about it too, and we say the best. You can have a conversation between Snoop and Jay because it's a quantity versus quality, and then you just figure out like what's more important to you in that moment when you're having that conversation. But I do agree, man. I mean, I think Nori's probably the most mutually beneficial, right? Like he needs the beats and it pulls something out of him. Whereas like I like there and Nori has more than a lot of people realize too.
Yeah.
Right. Like speaking of Nori, right? Me and Bo just talked about this the other day. This kid, Armani White, has this new song, Billie Eilish, that samples nothing. Oh, and it's like amazing to me, first of all, that we're at a point where the Neptunes beats are being sampled. Like that blows our mind. Because if you think conceptually from the era that we grew up in, when sampling was a huge deal, these soul samples, they were sampling Kanye and Just Blaze and Bink was sampling shit from when our parents were growing up.
Yes.
And now to have the realization that we are now at that age where the shit that came out when we were growing up is being sampled.
Yes.
First of all, that blew my mind. It hurt my ego a lot. 36 years old, not old to me.
Like, my knees let me know a little while ago that I was at that point, but then it's like, yes, you accept your place.
Yeah, man. And so it's dope because like the song actually is good. Like I think it's, for what it is, I think it's a good song. I think it's a dope song. But to speak again to Nori, I think Nori is one of the most self-aware characters we have in the hip hop culture. He knows, who he is and what he brings to the table, which is why Drink Champs is such a hit. And, I saw a video. What made me listen to the song is when I saw a video on social media of him in the studio with the kid playing it for him. Armani was playing it for him. And he's like, oh, my publishers are going up. I was like, that's dope to see. And the fact that it's actually a good song, that makes me feel better too. Like if it was trash, then it'd be a different conversation.
It'd be a different conversation for sure. I'm gonna have to listen to that joint.
Billie Eilish. It's of our eras. It blew up on TikTok. So
yeah, that's how everything happens with music now. And the fact that I don't check TikTok ever means I don't know what the fuck music is going.
Yeah, and I heard it on TikTok and didn't even think about it because I think I heard a version on TikTok that didn't have it was just the instrumental. But then when I realized it was an actual song, I was like, what the hell? Yeah. What is going on?
Yeah. We got old. That's what happened.
It's crazy.
We got old.
My little sister's 20. That's where I get all my information from. So
it's crazy, man. And like Nori is like the crazy part about it, like Nori's B-side Neptunes joints still go hard. Like I'm a G, head buster. People know Super Thug and people know Grimy. But man, shout out to Nori, man.
There's my choreography mention of the episode. I did choreography to I'm a G.
We talked about this before because we did an episode of kind of a battle, Nori versus Busta. There is I every time I get in a rabbit hole, I'd be trying to search for it. There is a go-go version of I'm a G that is amazing that I had on 2 computers ago. And I wish I could find it, but it is amazing. I don't know if I think it might be Backyard, but I'm not sure. I don't want to talk out of turn, but like it's amazing. Like have you heard the go-go version of Flap Your Wings?
I don't think so.
Crankage. Like I'm so glad that shout out to Pharrell and them and Other Tone and all those guys that were involved with Something to Water and having them show love to go at that moment. Like that was a dope conversation that they did. But so Second thing before we let you go, give us your brief overall thoughts on some of the recent releases from this past year or so from the Neptunes.
From
What
the
stuff that they
Neptunes?
produce? Yeah, stuff that Pharrell or Chad and them together have produced.
Oh man, I think the only thing I really heard is what Pharrell did on Push's new album. I wish I could keep up with music more. I feel like I'm just like I just don't. I don't feel like I have the time all the time, and so I just go back to what's familiar. And
That's
I'm like,
real.
okay, if Pusha puts out if Kendrick puts out an album, which I didn't love, but like
Yeah.
that's who I'm gonna go to. So I listened to the Pusha album. I like it. I don't like it as much as Daytona. I don't even like it, I think, as much as like My Name Is My Name or anything. But I think, yeah, I think listening to Pusha talk about the process of making that and what Pharrell was trying to get him to do, he's like, I want you to embody a character. I
Right.
want you to focus on hooks. I want you to like make songs. It's refreshing to hear Pusha. I mean, he's still Pusha. He's
Yep.
still with the bars, still with that relaxed like delivery, still menacing in all of those ways that he is, but to be trying new things at this point and pushing himself in those ways and getting Pharrell to do that, and Pharrell being like, there's something that I want to hear from you, there's still some new ground for you to cover, and them having the respect for one another to be able to do that, like I appreciate that, like for sure. And it came out, I think I like the Neptunes contributions more than the Kanye ones on that album. And I think that has a lot to do with it. It's just like that building of like 30 years of them working together and still being able to communicate in a vision with one another and execute that vision. Like, yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're split on that. I think because Vogue leans more Kanye most of the time.
I get you. I mean, I feel like with Kanye, this is not a Kanye podcast, but it's just I'm so exhausted by him.
Of him in general. I'm exhausted by his whole existence. Like, just to go on a tangent right now, right? Like all this conversation he's in the news about this Gap thing. It's like,
yes.
On the one hand, like I understand conceptually now more than ever what he's quote unquote trying to do with this whole movement of clothes, right? He's trying to make it show that fashion doesn't matter. Just wear anything. Just wear clothes. Like it doesn't matter what size you get or that it's in a trash bag. Just go pull out one and just walk away because you just need clothes that need to be fancy. But at the same time, if that's what you're trying to do, just put those on the street and give them to homeless people. Like, why are you trying to sell them in one of the most corporate retail corporations in the world, bro?
For
Like
crazy prices.
right. Like I just don't understand. Like, and you add that to everything else, man. I'm just like,
Exhausting. He's exhausting.
he's so exhausting, man. I realized the other day I haven't gone back to any of those first three albums, and I love those. I was raised on those first three albums, and I don't go back to them at all. Like it's just left so much of a distaste in my mouth. I'm like, damn, like I haven't listened to Graduation in years, and that shit's crazy to me.
That was everything when it came out in
right.
07.
When we were about to graduate.
Yeah. It was everything. And I can't tell you the last time I listened to even a song off of it.
Yeah, man. All right, bro. We appreciate you
Sorry,
on,
man.
I'm in a place of deep trauma about Kanye. I just couldn't.
She always, whenever we talk about Kanye, she just like, I feel bad for you. You're almost put in a position where we're like, get your mans. That's your mans.
That's your mans. No.
That's your stick man right there. Go
Yo, man, like it's crazy, bro. It's crazy, man. Just so go ahead, tell the people what they can look for coming from you in the near future. Tell everybody where to follow you, what you got going on.
Oh man, I got so many different things that I don't know when any of this stuff drops. I'm writing stuff for New York Times, for New York Magazine, some stuff for Pitchfork that's coming out. They're doing sort of like best of the 90s stuff that I'm working on a few things with them. Podcast comes out every week. You can follow on Twitter, Mychal Smith, Mychal. Instagram, even though I don't be on there really, at Mychal Denzel. But yeah, that's it. You'll see it. I'm out here.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you so much. And like I mentioned earlier, for all of our loyal however many of you out there who listen to this podcast on a regular basis, my 10 friends and family. Like I said, the next episode after this is gonna be VMOS and Friends Part 2. We're gonna go through a bracket and vote for NCAA tournament style, the best Clipse song from the 4 albums. It's gonna be interesting. I can't wait to drop that. Like I think like it's gonna be wild. I think it's gonna like my friends are wild cards in general, and only I know like the list. But when I start pulling people's cards, like this was your number one song, bro. Like what's like what? It's gonna be funny, man. It's gonna be funny, bro. So I'm looking forward to that. So all y'all listeners out there, celebrate Clipse Week with us. 20th anniversary of Lord Willin. Michael, thank you. Bo, good to see you as always. My partner in crime. Thank you so much. Everybody else, appreciate y'all. Peace and love.